All right, everybody. So grab pizza if you haven't. We're going to go ahead and get started. Welcome to the second ACM at UC General Body meeting of the 2017-2018 school year. If you haven't installed Git yet, go to git-scm.org while I'm talking, and then go to github.com while I'm talking and make an account. You'll save a little bit of time later on. And I'll also go over specific steps for that when we get there. If you need any help, just raise your hand. We've got Isaiah, Dom, Noah, and then a couple of other upperclassmen who will come around and give you a hand if you're having any problems with account creation or installation. If you haven't done it yet, do me a favor and pause your installation and go to acmuc.org/c and check in. You're going to need to check into 2 meetings to become a full member of ACM, which is how you'll get on the website, which I'm going to talk about in a couple minutes, and also how you'll get voting rights come elections in the spring semester. So it's important that you sign in, and we're going to go ahead and get started. So a quick heads up, just like our last meeting, you are being recorded today because what we're going to do is after the meeting, we will upload the recording of both my screen and we've got a camera back there recording what I am saying and a little bit of the room. So if you have any questions, you can reference that and just be aware that you're being recorded. Like I said, go to that attendance link and fill that out. It's important that you do that. And go ahead and grab pizza anytime I'm talking if you are hungry, or Coke if you want to drink. So, a little bit of a refresher for some of the people who maybe weren't here at our last meeting. This is nowhere near as comprehensive as our first meeting was, but you can find the YouTube video and slides for that on our GitHub and YouTube channel if you are interested. But what is ACM at UC? If you aren't familiar, we are the student chapter of the Association for Computing Machinery here at the University of Cincinnati. Our main goal here is to build a computing community at UC through talks, workshops, and other events. And we're really just a bunch of students who have come together over a common interest in technology and computers. We're not a group of people built up around a common experience level, just a common interest. So we've got newcomers and we've got some veterans too. If you're in any of these majors I listed, this is a great club for you. And if you're not in one of these majors, regardless of what you are, all you really need is that interest in computing and technology to be a member. So what do? We have a ton of things that we do as an organization. Some of the things I want to highlight, though, are Revolution UC, which is our hackathon. You can go to YouTube and search Revolution UC to get a really cool recap video. We do Local Hack Day, which is going to be in December this year. It's a miniature hackathon. We do bi-weekly meetings and workshops just like the one you're at right now. We'll have companies in at different points during the semesters to talk to you about opportunities. And then we also have a bunch of services like our Slack, which I'm going to get to in a second, recorded meetings, homework help, GitHub organizations, and then we also do office hours, which I believe I have a slide on. Yes, I do. So we have office hours. Take advantage of them if you are in a CS course or just want to come talk to an ACM at UC exec, maybe about getting involved or about anything you might have an interest in. We'll just talk tech with you if you want. So come to 802A. That is the glass fishbowl right by the 801 lobby in the collaboration zone, and the times for that are Mondays from 6 to 7 p.m. and Thursdays to 1 to 2 p.m. We have the International Collegiate Programming Contest coming up, so that's going to be an opportunity to test your algorithm and programming chops against other students from across the Midwest. I believe we even have groups come down from Canada. Though I'm not sure on that. I know we have people from YSU and other places across Ohio and the Midwest. So if you're interested in joining a team, teams are of 3. You can have a team in mind or you could just be interested. Go to that link or acmuc.org and look for the interest form sign up. You'll be hearing a little bit more about practice sessions and getting involved with that. We will need to set up teams here by the end of the month. So maybe you can't make it to the office hours, or maybe you just like posting articles about recent tech or hearing about recent tech or other ACM at UC updates. So join our Slack. It's the coolest way to connect with other ACM at UC members and people interested in tech generally at UC. It's entirely free. You just have to go to acmcincy.slack.com/signup or go to the link on our website. Introduce yourself in our intros thread we had last week. You might have to scroll up a little bit in general, and just post about tech things. We've got channels in there for everything. If you have a group project you're doing with your classmates and you want to make a channel, go for it. So lots of cool stuff goes on in there, and we've got a pretty active user base we've built up over the past couple years. So I should have put a title slide in here, but we're going to go ahead and get started on the Git workshop. This is a cool comic by XKCD, which most of you are probably familiar with. Take a second to read it. It's a humorous take on Git, but you'll find it's got its little pangs of truth. So if you haven't, go ahead and go to git-scm.org. I've got an installation slide in here somewhere. And start downloading the Git Bash for Windows. It's the big download link. If you need any help, raise your hand. We've got Noah right there, Dom and Isaiah here to come around and help you. But what is Git? You've probably heard of at least of the word Git, if not before today as I've been talking about it. Git is a tool for distributed version control. It's the most popular version control tool you'll find out there right now. If you go to a meetup or you go to a startup, they are 99% of the time using Git. Your big enterprise companies, which you might co-op for, might not be using Git. They might be using an older version control system. But the thought processes and the techniques are kind of the same. So what you learn in Git, you'll be able to take over to those other systems. And it's extended through popular tools like GitHub, which is a really big thing for people who want to code in their free time and show off what they've been doing, and then give other people access to that work and code collaboratively. So the original author for Git is actually Linus Torvalds. Does anybody know who that is? He's the guy who created Linux. So he is a programming genius, and he's got a little bit of a personality. And we did a little bit of a talk on him in the spring semester last year. So if you go to our YouTube, you can find that. A really cool guy. So why does version control matter? And also a little bit about what version control actually is. So it's a way to keep track of your changes along with other metadata, like maybe why you made that change and who made it. So when you have this system or this programming code base that you're looking at with other people, maybe at work, maybe in your free time on an open source project, you need a way to integrate people's changes together. If you've ever emailed code in zip files or handed around flash drives, you know it sucks. It's easy to run into conflicts. Somebody's developing on one version of code, and then you have to try and put them together, and it's just a big hassle and a headache. But Git is a system for managing that collaboration. Not to say you have to use it collaboratively, but it's a great way to do it. So you can use Git to reverse previous changes you've made. If you introduce a bug and you need to undo it, I just had to hotfix a website that I made a bad mistake change to, and I just reverted the commit, and I was able to deploy it, and it was safe. So you can trace bugs in it. You can fix those mistakes by undoing them temporarily, or look at the history of the commits to see who introduced it or how it was introduced. It makes collaboration easy, like I mentioned. Tools like GitHub give you options like pull requests, which you're actually going to open a little bit later tonight. And it gives you the option to work independently of other developers and then bring your changes together and work with them there. And I 100% guarantee you that you will use this when you go on your first co-op. You're going to run into a version control system. I promise you, when you go out to work, they are not going to be handing email off through code or through zip or through flash drives, except in the rarest of cases. Everybody who's been here on co-op, you've used version control. Maybe not Git, but version control, right? So it's 100% a very important skill for you to learn, no matter how much programming experience you have. So let's get started. That pun, right? So if you haven't done it, which hopefully all of you have, you've gone to git-scm.com and downloaded Git Bash for Windows. If you haven't, will you raise your hand so I can send somebody around to you? You have Git, I know you do. If you haven't, will you go to github.com and start making an account? We'll have another chance to do this if you don't quite finish before we get into the actual coding. GitHub itself is a repository website, so it's a place to upload your code. Makes it so it's easy to collaborate across computers and with other people. And it's also really easy to make things open source. And we'll talk about some ways you can extend GitHub in a little bit. It's almost like a digital resume. You can link to your GitHub on your resume. Employers will go out there, especially if they're a cool company, and check to see what kind of activity you have on your GitHub, see if you're involved in things, and it's a really good way to set yourself apart. If you're on Linux, you can install Git with your package manager, but you probably already knew that because you're running Linux. And if you're on Mac OS, you can do those steps or call over one of our Mac gurus. So, everybody, I've got Git up myself right here, and I'm going to try and do it underneath my slides when I can. So what you want to do is you want to go and pull up Git bash. If you're on Windows, you can just do the Windows key and type in Git bash, and if you've installed it correctly, it should come up. If you have any problems, just stick your hand up. I'll send one of these gentlemen around to come give you a hand. So, the first thing we're going to do is, if everybody's ready to go ahead, raise your hand if you need help or need to pause for a second. Okay, so the first thing we have to do with Git, and you only ever have to do this the first time you set up Git on a computer, is you have to tell it who you actually are. Because like I said, you use Git to collaborate, and it's kind of meaningless to not have the data of who made these changes and have a way to contact them. So what you're going to do first is git config -- global user.name, and then in quotes your name, which I am Kurt Lewis, so I'm going to enter Kurt Lewis, but I encourage you to enter your own name. And then you're going to do the same thing but for email. Now if you've set up a GitHub account, you should use the same email you used for GitHub. So mine is my personal email. There's probably what I would recommend setting your GitHub up with, if you can, is your personal email. But it is totally up to you. And then all I have to do is hit enter. And now Git knows who I am. So those are an important step. It's going to make it so that you can, 1, upload commits to GitHub, because GitHub won't let you if your email doesn't match. And 2, it's going to let other people who look at your code, and us, when we look at the code you submit to the ACM website a little bit later, know who made it. And it's generally something you need to do. So, if I didn't skip too many, the first thing I want to mention is that no matter the command in Git, all you have to do is a git help or a git command -h to get a little bit of help on it. So one common command is log. So if I do git help log, what it's going to do is probably open up my web browser to the man page for it. So if you ever need help, no matter what commit it is, maybe you are new to learning Git and you don't remember the exact steps to committing something or the arguments to commit, all you have to do is remember git help and then the name of whatever you're trying to do. And I believe if I just type git help, it's going to pop up a general git help for me, except not in the browser. So that is a great way if you are a little bit rusty or you need a little bit of help to get that help. Let's see what the clear command is. There we go. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to make a repository. So in Git bash, your commands are a little bit different than if you are used to using the Windows command line. We are going to do a CD, which stands for change directory, into the name of a folder you want to do. So you see this little tilde Git bash has opened you up with. That is your home directory, which if you do an ls, which is list, I presume, it's going to list your user directory on Windows. On Ubuntu or Linux or a Mac system, it's going to list some different things, but this is where you are on Windows, which is what I imagine most of us are running. So I am going to change to whatever folder I want to go to put the repo in. I'm going to go to my programming folder, and I am going to make a directory called acm-git. Make directory, the command is just mkdir and then the name of the directory you want to make. So because I haven't done this since I was at this computer, I don't have it. And now I am in it. So if you need any help getting up to this point, just raise your hand like I've mentioned. Next, what we're going to do is we're actually going to create the Git repository. So when I type git init, what it's going to do is it's going to initialize the Git folder, which is a secret folder where it's going to actually track our changes, and it's going to set us up for making changes. You'll see Git bash has now told me that I am on the master branch, and we'll talk a little bit about what branches are when we get a little bit further. But if you've made it this far, you've got your first Git repo, so congrats. Yes, you have a question.
On Linux or Mac OS, all the commands you just saw are exactly the same. Like
yeah.
CD, Git, everything's the same.
So the first thing we can do, and you can do this at any point in a Git repository, is a git status. So git status is the way to know what's going on. You'll see that I am on branch master, which, like I said, we'll talk about what branches are in a minute. I am on the initial commit, which means I haven't actually committed anything yet, and there is nothing to commit because there are no files in this folder. If I do ls to check what's going on, it doesn't return anything because there is nothing. So the next step is going to be creating a file to actually do something with it. So like I said, if I type ls, there isn't actually anything there. But if I use touch, which is a great way to create an empty file, and I name it helloworld.txt, and then I do an ls again, you can see that now a file is listed because I've created a file. So on Windows, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to do notepad helloworld.txt, and that's going to open up Notepad with my helloworld.txt file. So, and side note, anytime you're doing something in Git Bash, you can hit tab to autocomplete. So I typed notepad and then I typed the HE and then I hit tab and it filled in the rest of hello world for me because it knows that notepad is going to take an argument of a file and then it knows that this is the only file in there that starts with HE, and so it autofills it for me. So now that I've got my file, all I have to do is type something like maybe ACM is the coolest club at UC, which I happen to think is a true thing. So type absolutely whatever you want, but make at least one change. And then I hit Control S and saved it, and then I exit it out. And now if I go in and I do a git status, you can see that it still says I'm on branch master. It says that I'm still on my initial commit, but it now tells me that I have an untracked file, and that is that helloworld.txt. So that means that it is now picked up that things are different than when we initially created the repo. And it says that we have nothing added to commit, but we have untracked files present. So you see it says to use git add to track, which is my next slide. So Git actually has something called a staging area. Maybe on co-op you've used Subversion or another type of version control system. Staging is something that's kind of unique to Git. I won't say it's the only thing that has it, but it's a really cool way to add only the changes you care about. I know I've been working on software projects and I make a change here and I make a change here, but this one's just kind of like a throwaway change, and so I only want the change I made over here. And this is a great way to make only that change. So the way you do it is you do git add and then whatever changes you want to add on a file basis. You can also do it on even a line basis inside that file, but for now we'll just do the one. And you saw again, I typed HE and hit tab, so I don't have to actually type out the name of the file. So, anybody have any questions so far? Cool. Did I see a hand go up? No, okay. So, if I do a git status now, you'll see that it says changes to be committed. And it's got my new file, helloworld.txt. So, I chose the whole file to commit, and now I'm going to do that. So, all I have to do is type git commit -m for a message, because you need to create a message when you create a commit, and I'm going to say what I did. And what I did was I add helloworld.txt. So I didn't have to go in and immediately hit git commit. Do you need help with the light? Oh, okay. I didn't immediately have to go in and do git commit. I could have added more files. I could have unstaged that file. Maybe I realized I don't really want to commit the hello world. But in this case, I am going to commit it, so I'm just going to do git commit -m add helloworld.txt, and you'll see that it says one file changed. I made one line insertion, and it created the tracking for that file. So now if I do a git status, you'll see that there is nothing to commit because I haven't made any changes since my last commit. And if I do a git log, you'll see that there is now a commit in my Git history. So that's the basics of how you make your first changes in Git and how you make your first commit. And from there, all you really do is you continue to make changes and commit, make changes and commit. And anytime you finish a feature or do an incremental unit of change or of work, it's a great time to commit. You can roll back commits. You can look at the history for commits. It's a really flexible system. One way you can flex it out. Oh, I have a note on commit messages, so we'll do that before I talk about branches. So commit messages are important. You saw that I did the -m and typed in add helloworld.txt. And that's important because when you're working with other people, or maybe you're working on this repo right now, and in 2 years you're going to realize, wait, I did something really important and I need to know how I did that. This was something that I did a long time ago. I can reference it. it's really nice to be able to go back and say, here's the git log, this is the change where I introduced that, here's what it looked like before, here's what it looked like after, and here's a description of how I did it. So when you're writing a git commit message, you should be detailed, and you should use imperative action words like update hello world instead of updated hello world, or that's a little nitpicky thing. And then if you need to, you can even write a full body message to further explain your changes. So you can write paragraph upon paragraphs if you want to. So that's an important thing to keep in mind because it is helpful. Who knows when you're going to be referencing your commits later. So I started going down. Yeah, your question?
Yeah, when you guys are doing commit messages, do you usually like high-level descriptions of what you did or descriptions of how you changed each file? Like if you say edited 20 files,
yeah,
update a style feature.
Yeah, so if I complete a feature or a unit of work, I usually say add feature, and I keep my actual message short. Or I say fixed blank bug or fixed issue number blank blank blank. I usually keep my commit messages pretty short. In fact, Git recommends that your commit messages are less than 50 characters, so that when you do this git log, your commit message can fit on one line. And then if I do need to make a more detailed description, I can go and add the paragraphs upon paragraphs or however much I want to add. Or, in the case I've modified 20 files, something we won't go into today, but something you can do is you can just git diff the commit, and it'll tell you the changes that were made there. And so in some cases, it's going to be a self-explanatory change. If I change 20 CSS files, you might be able to tell from that. However you get the meaning across, that's the important thing, right?
All right.
So let's talk about branching. So one of the things that makes Git really cool, and you saw I had this little tree graphic over here, which was a little bit early, but it was the best place I had to put the image, is branching in Git. So branching is a really, really powerful tool, which is the best way to work in Git, if you ask me. It's a way to make your changes, and then if you realize you don't like them, you made a mistake, just throw them out. Or merge them in. It makes it really easy to do pull requests. You're actually going to have to use a branch to make your change to our repo later. And it's a way to just track your changes. You can make breaking commits, code that doesn't work or is a compile error maybe, and then not have to worry about it ruining your master branch. So what you do to make a branch is you do git checkout -b to create a new branch, and then you can name it whatever the heck you want as long as there's no spaces. And I'm going to call this snazzy feature. And you're going to notice that my thing right here changed from master to snazzy feature. That's because Git has changed me to this branch. So what I can do now is I can go back into Notepad Hello World, and I can make whatever change I want. This is a snazzy feature. And I'll save that and go back here. I'll do a git status, see that again I have it modified but I have not staged it, which means I can't commit it yet. So I'll git add hello world.txt. I'll commit add a snazzy feature. And then if I do a git log, you'll see I now have two commits. I have add hello world and add a snazzy feature. So that's pretty snazzy. But if I go back to master, now that I've made that change, you'll see that my branch information has again changed back to say master, and I do a git log, you'll see that I don't have that snazzy feature anymore. Because that snazzy feature was only committed in my snazzy feature branch. So think about the implications of this when you are actually doing a complex programming project. You've got a new feature, or you've got an idea for a change. You want to rewrite a function, and it's going to break a ton of code. The place to do it is in a branch. It gives you the opportunity to work on it, and then somebody calls, your boss calls you at work and says, hey, we have this thing, you really need to work on it right now. You don't want to have to throw away all the changes you've made so far. So if you've been working on a branch, all you have to do is check back out to master, maybe create a new branch for the change you have to make, and then work there. And you can work without worrying about those breaking changes you just made hurting you, and it makes it so that you can revisit features you've been working on, and you don't have to work linearly. You can work in a tree like I had on that thing there. So if you want to play around, you can add commits to your Git Snazzy, you can add commits to your Snazzy feature branch. You can add commits to your master branch and play around for a second. Because what we're going to do next is we can merge it back in. So you see that I'm here in master because I did a git checkout master, and you'll see if I do that again, it tells me I'm already on my master branch. A quick digression, master in Git is typically considered the master branch, which means that it is the source of all truth in your repository. It's the place where you expect all your changes to eventually be headed. You might branch and then branch off a branch and then branch off that branch, but your master is typically expected to be the main code, and it's where everything is eventually going to be headed back in. It's like your tree trunk, and then your branches are literal branches. So what I can do now is I like the changes I made in Snazzy feature. I think they're really going to improve the quality of my code base. I really like the business opportunities that my Snazzy feature gives me. I think it's really going to make a difference in my user base. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the commit. What's that? It's pretty snazzy. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to git merge Snazzy feature. And since you see here that I am on my master branch, you can see that by that blue master right there, it's going to merge that Snazzy feature into my master branch. So you'll see that it fast forwarded it because I didn't make any changes in master during that time, and it has modified hello world. So if I do notepad hello world, you'll see that I now have my Snazzy feature. I just got highlighted on Hacker News, and I am getting thousands upon thousands of hits a second. So I am doing pretty well on this project. So if I do a git log now, you'll see that I have now my Snazzy feature in there. So let's say when I said mess around with your master branch, you made a commit in your master branch, and then you tried to merge your Snazzy feature in. Probably would have been a good thing for me to show you, but it would have presented you with the opportunity to say, hey, there has been conflicting changes. This file was changed in both places, and then git merge will lead you through the process of actually merging those together and doing a literal code merge. And you can go in and pick by hand the changes you want to bring over. So, any questions so far on Git, on branching, on committing, on how you might use this?
So all of these slides, if you're like trying to catch up or something, or you want to review them later, go to github.com/acmuc/archive. These slides are available.
Yep. You can find our archive link on our website too. We basically put it everywhere we can. So, how am I doing on pace? Does anybody want me to slow down a little bit? Am I going too slow? Any opinions at all? No? Okay. So, I have a rule that I accept silence as yeses.
Hey, wait a second.
Yeah. So what we're going to do now is everybody here is going to get the chance to add themselves to the ACM at UC website. So the ACM at UC website, I believe we have one edition on there. And has anybody checked tiles since? Okay, cool.
It's safe.
Okay. He got to merge himself, and you can never be too sure. So what you're going to be able to do is you're going to be able to go in and see your class of blank, and you're going to be listed on our ACM website. This is cool because, you know, if you ever get called out, hey, were you actually a member of ACM? Yeah, I am. I'm on the website. And then this is also going to be an opportunity. We've actually been asked by professors before to maintain a membership database. So it's going to be a cool way to say, hey, I'm here. And it's also a pretty cool way to learn about collaboratively working in Git. So the first thing you're going to do here is I'm going to tell you actually some things. So you can only be added to our website by submitting a pull request yourself. We're not going to add you. You have to add you, and then we'll accept it. And then you can only update by submitting a pull request. So when you're picking what to put on here, I recommend you pick things that you don't have to go in and update all the time. So if you want to, you're certainly welcome to. If you're anything like me, though, I'd forget. You will need a name, the URL to an image. We'll talk about that in a second. I'm going to recommend you use your GitHub. A link to your GitHub, actually just your GitHub username. And then a personal website, which can be in the form of a website you run. Maybe it's your Twitter. Maybe it's your LinkedIn, whatever you want to do. And then none of that except your name is actually mandatory. So if you want to put nothing but your name on there, you are welcome to, though I fully recommend you to put everything. And then the other requirement we have is that you attend 2 meetings in the year we accept your pull request. So if this is your first ACM meeting, that's fine. Go through it, submit a pull request, and then at the next ACM meeting you go to, we will merge your pull request and you'll be on our website. So make sure you're signing into meetings, because if you don't, you'll never get to be on our website. And that's a pretty high price to pay, am I right? So the first thing we're going to talk about is how you fork repos. So on GitHub, there's this process called forking a repository. It gives you the freedom to make changes and own them to a repository without impacting the previous owner. And then it's a great place to maybe look around projects or make little experimental features. And it's also the de facto way to contribute to open source nowadays. So the first thing we're going to do is, if you haven't created a GitHub account, you're going to want to go to GitHub right now and do that, because we're going to go ahead and do things. So if you're on GitHub, you'll get to pick a username. I'd recommend doing, if you haven't already, something relatively professional. I did Kurt Lewis. You're certainly welcome to do whatever you want, though. And we're going to go to where I'm actually logged in to do this. And you are going to go to github.com/acm@uc/acm@uc.github.io. So we'll give everybody a second to get there. So where you are now is you are on the homepage for the ACM at UC website repository. Our entire website is open source, which is pretty easy because it's static. And you get to go through and see every change we've ever made, every modification we've ever made if you want. And you can also change it yourself, which is what we're going to do. So you see up here in the top right, we've got this little fork button. And you can see fork your copy. We're going to press that. Make sure you're logged in for this. And you're going to see I have some options on where I want to take it. I can take it to Meme Magic, which is a group organization I'm a member of, or the Revolution UC organization, which I am a owner of. So it's going to take a few seconds, because on the back end, GitHub is going to take our file system holding the repository and create a new one. And you'll see now I am on kurtlewis/acm@uc.github.io. So I now have full access to do whatever the heck I want to this repository. I could delete every single file if I wanted, and it wouldn't hurt the ACM at UC website. So if I F5 this, I can see how many of you have forked it. So we will wait until we have 20. How about that?
We just did this in for fork numbers.
Oh, yeah.
Hey, wait, you're on your own fork of the project now.
Yeah, I am, but I think it still updates because it's going up. So if you need help creating a GitHub account or forking it, just raise your hand and we'll come over. We'll wait on 3 more, or before I embarrass myself, we'll just go on. Okay. So, let's eat. That's another pun. That's a good pun. So, now, like I said, you have complete control over your repository. And what we're going to do now is, before you had to actually create the repo by doing a git init. Now we can actually go and clone the repo, which means to download it from GitHub. So, if you are falling behind and want caught up, go ahead and just flag down one of our other exec members. But for now, if you are caught up and you're following along, you're going to go to this green clone or download button and make sure it says clone with HTTPS. If it doesn't, you can do this. If you have SSH on, obviously do that. But for most people here, it's going to be this HTTPS. So I click this copy button to copy it to my clipboard. And now I am going to go to here. You'll see that I am still in our ACM-Git repository, which I bet most of you are in. So what I'm going to do is a change directory ... which is going to take me up 1 directory. And now I'm just back in my programming directory. So you can see my projects there. I'm going to do a git clone, and then right-click and paste the repository address. I'll hit enter, and you'll see Git go to the GitHub website and download everything we just did, everything in the repository. And then I'll just have to change directories and go into the acm@uc.github.io project. And you'll see I'm now here. And now if I do a git log, you can see a lot more stuff going on than what we had going on. So it's cool. So I'll give everybody a second to get caught up with that. And again, you can flag down Noah, Isaiah, or Dom if you need any help. They're turning around periodically. Isaiah?
What's up?
Right there.
Oh, he was hiding.
So I'm actually not on the website, so I'll be adding myself for the first time just like you guys. So if you're waiting on other people like I am, a cool command you can do, which is going to print things out a little nicer, is git-log --graph --decorate --one line. And now we've got this cool little graph because you can see Isaiah and Dom, as our webmasters, have used branching before to do things. And you'll see that we've got some cool history going on with the short descriptions of the changes they've made. I'm using J to scroll down and K to scroll up, though I believe the arrow keys work. And then you can press Q to exit if you did this.
Is there any way to make your image or auto update from your image on GitHub?
I believe it already does.
Alright, so it maintains the same image.
It should update automatically, yeah. So, if you're not caught up, go ahead and flag somebody down to help you, because hopefully you've cloned it. And now you're going to actually add yourself to the website. So, just like we did before, it's important to branch here because we're going to be merging your branch in. So I'm going to do git branch, and actually let's pull up the slides to talk about them first. I'm going to do a git branch add-kurt-lewis, and then I'm going to navigate to my graduation year in the _data directory. And then all I have to do is copy and paste the template at the top of the file and fill it out so that it is information that pertains to me. If you need help, you can raise your hand, or we have a README in the _data directory. We're going to talk about the GitHub profile picture. If you are ahead, you might want to set a profile picture on GitHub so that you can use that one. Otherwise, you can use, I believe, any image URL, right? So, yeah. So I'm going to do a git checkout -b add Kurt Lewis. So you can see now that little blue parentheses on my right has updated to say add Kurt Lewis. And then I'm going to change directories using that cd command into _data. And now if I do an ls to list all the files there, you'll see that there is a file for every single graduation year. If you're not here, raise your hand, and Isaiah will help you copy over a file if your graduation year isn't up here. But it should be. If it isn't, yeah, it should be there. I'd be surprised if it wasn't. So what I'm going to do now is I am a class of 2019 student, so I'm going to open up 2019. So you should be doing the year you graduate. I apologize if that wasn't clear. You should do, if you're graduating in 2021 projected, go ahead and do 2021. And then you'll see up here at the top, for some of you, there might already be a couple entries, but you're going to see right here from this name down, you have a template there. So all you have to do is control copy, go to the bottom and add it, and then go through and delete each of the hashtags. You don't like me calling them hashtags? So I'm going to type out my name.
Is there anything bad about continuing across multiple lines?
It's a question for Isaiah. I would imagine not. Well, you shouldn't hit enter. You shouldn't hit enter. If it word wraps, you're fine. It'll be on the same line in the actual file. So, short bio. What do I have to say about myself? ACM UC. I love tech communities. Coding in my free time. Then I can go to my GitHub and go to my profile, which I can do by going up here. And then, so the way we're going to recommend you to do your profile picture, you saw we had on our membership page some pictures. Christian, what year are you?
2020.
2020. So you see here, he has used his GitHub profile picture, and it'll automatically load from GitHub. So all you have to do is right-click on your profile picture and go to Copy Image Location, and then go in here and post that in your image URL, deleting the text that's already there. And then, if you want, there's no reason to keep anything after the question mark, though it won't hurt anything if you do. So now you can go in, and I can add my GitHub username. Type it just your username, not the full URL. And then finally, a link to my website. So I have a website. If you don't, you can just go ahead and use your Twitter. You can use your LinkedIn. You can use your GitHub. Oh, I guess your GitHub's already there, so don't use your GitHub. You can use whatever you want, or you can just delete the line. And that's true of everything here, so there's no reason to add no lines. So you can delete any line you don't actually want. That's correct, right, Isaiah?
Except for name.
Yeah, except for name. So now I've got this done. I am happy with it, roughly happy with it. I bet I'll be modifying my bio a little bit later. So I am going to save the file and do the same thing we did before. I'll do a git status to see what's going on, and then I will add the modified file. And then I'll do a git commit, and let's actually pull the slides up here in a second, and type add Kurt Lewis to website. So give everybody a chance to fill out their bio. Add the file by using git add, and then do a git commit. If you are done and want more pizza, I believe we have basically a whole pepperoni pizza up here. Yeah, come get pizza if you're done and you want more pizza. I used Natifier to wrap it into an Electron app.
So what API are you guys?
Rip
What API
you.
are you guys using for the website?
It is a Jekyll website.
Ooh. So do you build it like use an automated piece of software to build the website?
It's a good question. Yeah, GitHub does it for us.
Pages allows you to show that.
Makes it a little bit annoying to demo things.
That's very sad.
I'm learning view.
I got one page.
The off.
I got one page for React.
No, I tried to install the host.
It should make sense.
Virtual box.
You want to see my so far? Sure.
Okay. Who all is still working on getting caught up? Yeah? Okay, you got a second. Don't worry about it.
Anybody need any help?
Yeah, if you need any help, I've got 3 guys up here who, by rule, have to come help you.
They have input.
That big. That guy.
No.
I like that inventory.
I don't have time to get our set up.
What did you look up?
Anybody need any help? Just raise your hand. Anybody need more time? Okay. So, before we actually go on with the next steps, let's talk a little bit about using Git collaboratively. So now there's something a little bit different about this repository than the repository you created earlier. and that it is actually connected to the repository on GitHub. And so the way we can check that is by doing git remote -v, and you'll see that here it has listed my origin as the GitHub link that I downloaded it from. So this is a way that if there are changes on the GitHub, I can pull them down, or I can push changes that I've made locally. We can even go here and add our upstream, which is the name for what we forked it from, and copy down changes that are made on the actual master acm@uc.github.io. So that's something you can do if you want. It's by no means a requirement. We'll handle any merge conflicts there are. But what we're going to do now is we are going to actually push what you've done. So git push is going to take all the changes we just made and push them onto our origin, which you can see there is our link to our GitHub. So if I do a git push origin, and then whatever you've named your branch. So I have named mine add Kurt Lewis. You'll see here that it is going to push everything up. And I have no idea why that works without my username and password, but it does. It's probably going to ask you for your username and password. So go ahead and do that. Enter your username and password for Git, which you just created. And we'll give everybody a second to get caught up. Okay, so now you can go back to GitHub and you can go to your repository. If I go to my home page, I bet there's going to be a lot of notifications. So here I am back at kurtlewis/acm@uc.github.io, and you can see that there's actually a little notification here telling me that I just uploaded a new branch. So right here, it's actually super easy for me. All I have to do is hit this compare and pull request. You'll see it is highlighted the changes I made because I added myself. And I can go up here. I don't know why it started me at the bottom. And you'll see that it has said base fork acm@uc/acm@uc.github.io. It is said that the base branch is master, and it has noticed that I created this off my fork of the repository from my branch add Kurt Lewis. So if you needed to make a pull request to a different branch, maybe you're not trying to merge into the master repo on the master branch, you can do that. But in this case, we are. So it has automatically filled in my title with the name of my commit. And I'm just going to say, I added myself to the website and made my first pull request. And then all I have to do, we're also going to force Isaiah to look at
I
this.
get so many emails.
And we're going to assign Isaiah to this.
I just signed you, so.
Oh, man.
Oh, you messed up too.
No, it saved it. All right. I won't harass Isaiah. So then I'm going to hit create pull request. And it's going to take me here. And it's going to say add Kurt Lewis to members. And I've created my first pull request. So if you've made it this far, congratulations on completing your first pull request. So what you're hopefully going to do, in this case it's a pretty simple change, but maybe you're making an actual change to an open source project, or you're at work and you're making a change. You should make a quick description of your changes, maybe some rationalization for what those changes are, and then hit submit. Here's another funny comic that I actually got from one of my supervisors at a previous co-op.
What job? Or what place?
We're being recorded. I said we're being recorded.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
So, what happens now? So if you've made it that far, you've created your pull request. The project manager, which in this case is Isaiah right here, and Maddie, who's our membership chair, they're going to review your code, make sure you didn't make any mistakes, and then they'll respond if you did, and then if you didn't make any mistakes, they'll merge your code in, and you will be on the acm@uc.github.io website. Isaiah, if
What's
you'll.
up?
So All they'll do on the back end really is do a git merge your branch, and then they'll resolve any conflicts, because likely a ton of people are going to be editing these files right now, and then you'll be on the website. So if this is your first ACM at UC meeting so far this year, you won't be accepted until you've attended your second meeting. But if this is your second meeting, you'll be accepted probably tonight. And you'll get notified on GitHub when we merge your pull request, so you'll know when you go up on it. Now, if you want to go further, we have our Slack. I am 100% willing to talk about Git strategies, Git workflows, Git problems. I love Git. I spend a lot of time reading Git blogs on the best way to do things, and Git blogs on the best way to do workflows and things like that. So I very much enjoy talking about Git. So if you have any questions, hit me up with them or post about it in our Slack. You've actually got a private UC GitHub. If you go to, I believe, yeah, that's what I thought, github.uc.edu. Your University of Cincinnati actually pays to give us a private GitHub. So if you're doing coursework for classes, this is the place to host it. Just be aware, after you graduate, you'll lose any repos you have here. So I would personally recommend doing anything you want to show employers and things like that on your public GitHub, because they won't be able to see this one either. But you have it if you want it, and you can make any of your repos private there as well. You can go to education.github.com, and regardless of how much you're going to use GitHub, this is actually a pretty cool thing, because there are a ton of free offers for students here. So you can get the free student developer pack, which is going to give you access to private repositories on GitHub for the rest of your time at UC, and then it's going to give you a ton of free software. And I don't know how far I have to scroll down for the free software, but it will give you a ton, most of which I never use, but there is a little bit I do. So check that out. As a student, you get it. You get free DigitalOcean credit. $50 is 10 months for free on DigitalOcean. If nothing else, that's a pretty good deal. And then finally, like I said, Git is the most popular version control system right now outside of maybe some large enterprise companies. So if you Google anything about Git, you will find guides. You'll find help guides. You'll find blog posts on the best way to use Git and complex workflows and how you can make Git work for 100 people teams and anything. So like I said, I have a good time scrolling around and reading different things on Git. So if you have any questions on Git, or you are caught up on this workshop, just raise your hand. We'll come around. Come talk to me after the meeting. Our next meeting is going to be Thursday, September 28th at 6 p.m. in this exact room as well. We're going to be doing a web primer and talking about the basics of web development, followed up by a UC-hosted website competition. So you can actually host websites on UC servers for free, and we've got a competition in mind which we'll release details on that day. Maybe we'll compete for a Raspberry Pi or something like that, but it's going to be a ton of fun, we think. So if you are free, maybe you're looking for a co-op or you just want networking practice, right now Kinetic Vision is in TUC 417 ABC, which is basically, they've merged it into one big room. That's over that way, and that's until 8:30. So you can go chat up with Kinetic Vision, talk about both full-time and co-op opportunities. So if you have any questions, raise your hand, come up and talk to me, talk to any of our execs. We've got Noah right there. Noah, raise your hand. Isaiah right there, raise your hand, Isaiah. And then Dom back there in the back, raise your hand, Dom. So talk to any of the execs if you have any questions, questions about being involved, questions about Git, anything like that. And everybody have a good night. And roll Tribe. Yeah.